Hey, I'm Doug Jackson, founder of the law firm of Douglas G. Jackson. By now, you've probably heard us talk a little bit about our legal ladder method, our legal ladder philosophy. You may wonder a little bit what that is. So, in this video, what I want to do is go over our legal ladder philosophy with you. We actually have a bit of a guidebook. And if you go to the description in this YouTube video, you can actually download this guidebook and go along with me, but mostly I'm going to go through it with you. So I've got this here with me as well. And the first thing I want to note is that when people talk about the law, sometimes they talk about it as a shield, but we actually believe the law is a ladder. It's not only reactive, but it's proactive. It exists to protect your rights in times of trouble and promote your freedom, stability, growth, and legacy in times of opportunity. Yet, far too often, people view the law only as a tool or punishment of last resort. In truth, it's a structure. And like all good structures, it's designed to support something. The fact of the matter is, when we look at law, we oftentimes see it used by wealthy individuals, by big businesses, or other structured organizations. They use lawyers, they use law, and they do that because they know the law is a tool to be used. It's not something to be afraid of. Most people, they're afraid of the law. They don't want to use a lawyer. They see it as a problem. But again, we see it as a tool, and we see it specifically as a ladder, something for you to be able to climb up, for you to be able to be more successful. I've noticed a lot of law firms are very, very transactional with things, and we want to take a proactive approach and help you get to the next rung of the ladder. Sometimes that involves law, sometimes that involves referral to outside professionals. So this guide introduces the framework we call the legal ladder. It's really a legal hierarchy. It was inspired by Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which outlines the stages of human psychological development, and the legal hierarchy, or the legal ladder, as we like to call it, reframes legal engagement as a journey from legal survival to legal self-actualization. Just as Maslow taught that individuals must satisfy basic needs before pursuing higher goals, we believe that clients must address immediate legal threats before they can build legacies. We wrote this guide to help you recognize where you are and how to rise. So, first of all, we believe that access to justice really begins with knowledge, okay? Because justice doesn't begin in a courtroom. That's a lot of times what we think from watching TV or watching movies. It begins with an understanding of law and its beneficial uses. Because one of the things I'll sometimes talk about is how one of the coolest things about our society is that law and money are made up. They don't really exist except that we believe in them. If we stop believing in them, they would be worthless. And that is one of the coolest things because we created this as a society. We chose as humans, we're gonna do something, we're gonna believe in something bigger so that we can have law and order, so that we can exchange and barter and really grow. But what that means is that almost no matter where we are, we're subject to law and money. I remember one of my college peers told me, I studied economics and I want to get into law because those are the two things we can't get away from. And in a lot of ways, he's exactly right. No matter what you do, no matter where you are, you're going to be bound by law and you're going to have to pay your bills with money. So that's why we can't get away from these things. And that's why it's so important that you know a little bit about this. And that's again why justice doesn't begin in the courtroom. It begins, in my opinion, with access to the knowledge of law. Because I think there's what we call a knowledge gap. And it might be the most dangerous barrier to justice because it's hard to afford representation. That's just the fact of the matter. Lawyers are relatively expensive, and a lot of people see us as a cost because they're not thinking about getting to the next rung of the ladder. So understanding and knowledge helps you really kind of jump some of this justice gap. It really is the first thing in justice is just understanding the law, knowing your rights before they're taken from you, and recognizing your opportunities before they slip by. Knowledge is the first form of access to justice. So when you know what the law can do for you, the legal system transforms from an obstacle into a tool. This guide is going to help you understand where you need the help, where you need the professional help, so that you can invest it. Don't view it as a cost, view it as an investment to get a return on investment and move you up the ladder, or as we like to talk about, climb the legal ladder. So one of the first things we have to talk about with our legal ladder concept is the whole concept. So it's a hierarchy, and the inspiration is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but essentially, we as human beings, we have to have basic needs met first before we can do other things. So Maslow created a hierarchy, a little pyramid, and first is physiological needs. So are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Are you eating? The next is safety and security, then love and belonging, then esteem, and then self-actualization when you're at the top of the pyramid. And the problem with this is that it's not the problem, it's the whole concept, is that if any of these things get taken away, you move back down the pyramid, you slide back down. So if you get hungry, if you need to go, if you need to drink water, you slide back down. If your shelter is taken away, you slide back down. So you're always trying to reach the top. You're trying to stay up at the top of the pyramid for as long as you can, but you can't always be there. Sometimes you're going to slide back down. That's kind of the concept in a nutshell. And so we created the legal ladder and we created rungs up the ladder. So we have four essential rungs. We have crisis. So that's really legal threats to safety or survival. So that's the first one. I'll explain this in a little bit. Then we've got stabilization. So this is when you're no longer in crisis. You're stabilized. You're not in a good place, but you're stable. It's kind of the safety and security part of Maslow is okay, are you safe? Are you secure? You're not being chased by a bear anymore. So that's the stabilization. Then the next rung is growth, and this is really probably the biggest rung. And finally, legacy. So when we talk about the legal ladder, we talk about trying to help you anywhere that you are from crisis to legacy. And what we want to do is keep moving you up the ladder. So these are kind of almost floors, if you will. They're huge. We call them rungs, but there's a lot of space in between. And so even though you might not be on the next rung, you're trying to work your way up to the next rung. So let's talk first about. Oh, and also I want to tell you that the legal hierarchy, the legal ladder, it's not rigid. Life's not linear, and unfortunately, neither is legal readiness. So you might be kind of on different rungs. You might be doing two different things at the same time. Now, we try to create it as a model. We try to move you up linearly as much as we can, but life just doesn't always work that way. And so understanding where you are will help you plan better. So one of the things we talk about is why the law feels inaccessible. It's funny because the more engaged I am in the community, the less I realize, or the more I realize rather, that lawyers aren't oftentimes engaged with a lot of small businesses. Small businesses, entrepreneurs oftentimes don't know lawyers. A lot of people don't know lawyers because we do a really kind of a bad job of integrating with society and societal needs. And if lawyers aren't integrating with regular people, what you need to do is know knowledge and start trying to integrate with lawyers when you need them. So I find that really the middle class area is where there's a big gap, that and small businesses, because it really is hard to get legal representation if you're there. Sometimes we have legal clinics and stuff for people who are in crisis that are in poverty or maybe elderly, and we have people who are wealthy can afford it. So it's really kind of this middle area that a lot of people struggle. And that's where we want you to really start up the legal ladder so that you can get to the higher area where you feel good about affording these things. So that's our solution. We believe that when people understand the law, they begin to access justice even before they hire a lawyer. All right, so let's go back to the rungs. Let's first look at level one, as we call it, the of the rung, the crisis. So we start off these a lot of times these chapters with a quote: "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Dr. Martin Luther King. And so when you are in the crisis stage, you are in a level of urgency. So what does this mean from a legal perspective? Well, it could mean you or someone you know just got in a car accident. It could mean you or someone you know just got arrested. It could mean that you or someone you know is disabled. It could mean that you or someone you know just died. Um, all of these things put us in a bit of a crisis mode. Even a divorce can be a crisis because you don't know, you're not in control anymore. You don't know what's happening. You don't know the law and you need help. So there's this level of urgency and you don't know what to do. Things seem to be spiraling down. You seem to be falling. You're at rock bottom. So the solution here is really getting access to justice, trying to figure out what this means. How do you stop getting evicted? How are you having maybe you just got a lawsuit filed against you, you don't know anything. You've got an emergency custody issue. Maybe you've got domestic violence. Like I said, all of these things, car accidents are a huge one that happens unfortunately to too many people, and traffic seems to be getting worse and worse. And unfortunately, these moments aren't rare. They happen every day to people of all backgrounds. What turns them into disasters is not always the event itself, it's the lack of an immediate informed response. So, when you're in crisis, we want to talk about how to respond. And the law can offer you emergency protections. It can offer, you might have constitutional rights. So, if you're arrested, you have a right to counsel. You've got a right to remain silent. These are things you want to know. You might have court injunctions or temporary restraining orders where you can actually have a court stop something that's happening. You might have emergency guardianship appointments. You might have insurance claim preservations that you need to do. Tell people, tell the insurance company. You might have pre-suit demands or early settlement interventions or legal defenses that can stop or fight maybe an injunction against you, something like that. So there are legal things that can happen. But these tools only work if you know they exist and you act in time. If you don't act in time, you can lose rights. You can what we call waive rights. And that's why our firm emphasizes that access to justice begins with education, because before you can even know to call us or call a lawyer or seek help, you have to know that the help is there. You have to know what your rights are to some extent. You have to know where the red flags are to be able to spot them. So knowledge is a lifeline. So what do you do when you're at this level one, this crisis, right? First, you pause and you protect. Don't sign anything if you're under pressure. Exercise your right to remain silent in criminal matters. And maybe one of the biggest things is, just talk to an attorney. Reach out to an attorney that can help you because crisis isn't the end. Crisis is the beginning of the climb. And though it might feel like the lowest point, crisis isn't failure. It's the first rung on the legal ladder. And it's often the moment when the right invention can prevent long-term damage and even spark a transformation. So that's why we always talk about this one first. You might not be in crisis right now, but anything can happen at any time that's going to put you in crisis. It's going to lower you to that first rung. So and we believe that everyone needs help in these situations. So how do you climb? How do you get to the next level? Well, you want to really seek professional guidance because that can help stabilize you. Once you get professional guidance, you might be able to, like if you got in a car accident for instance, excuse me, if you got into a car accident, for instance, you're hurt, you're scared, you contact a lawyer, you can learn that you can get medical attention. And you may not even have to pay for it. It might come from your insurance. So you can get treatment and you can heal first, then get justice later. If you're in a lawsuit, a lawyer can tell you what the defenses are. They can help you out. If you are in a domestic violence situation, a lawyer can help you get an injunction. They can help you get what is commonly called a restraining order. So really, knowing the next steps, being able to plan, being able to talk to an attorney, that is how you get to that level of stabilization. That's this is the level that really kind of aligns with Maslow's hierarchy of safety and security. So it matters because that is the point where you can start thinking, you can start planning, and you can start really making a climb up. But in law, inaction during stabilization is a risk disguised as relief. So sometimes people think that things are moving slowly, so nothing's happening. That's not the case in law. It's oftentimes where people get stuck. It's the time you're stabilized. You're trying to hide from the next step. And stabilization is good. It's a really, really important thing, but you can't just feel comfortable. You have to move. But without stabilization, a win can quickly erode into a loss. And that's why the level of this legal hierarchy is so critical. You need stabilization before you can really plan. It ensures that the effort you've already made isn't wasted. Once you get that stabilization, it is important to grow, to move forward, to really plan and progress. And that's why level three, or chapter six of our legal ladder guidebook, is about growth. You build forward, use the law to expand, you empower, and you evolve. True freedom is not just the absence of restraint, it's the presence of possibility. The law can help you create that possibility. So, what is legal growth? Well, you're now out of the stabilization period. You can create, you can expand, you can really use the law as a framework for your future success. This level, we believe, aligns with Maslow's tiers of esteem and belonging. At this stage, you're no longer just seeking shelter, you're seeking legal structure to achieve your dreams. So, what might this look like? So, a lot of times, it, to get here, you're planning, right? You're doing things. You're getting insurance. You might want to know what your insurance says. So you might want to have a lawyer review it. Maybe you're signing an employment contract. That's a really important thing. You might want to have a lawyer review that contract so you know what you're signing. Maybe you're purchasing a house. That's another important thing. Maybe you're trying to get married. You're thinking about a prenup. These are really important things. Maybe you're thinking you're having kids or you're trying to plan your estate. Having a power of attorney, that's a really important thing for people. Having a will, any kind of estate plan, that's an important thing because you're planning for the future. And even though sometimes people see these things as cost, the fact is you're investing in your future because if you have a plan together, you are much more likely to achieve more. That's just how it works. So maybe you're expanding. Well, one of the things that I think is really important is that you actually start owning something. So we talked about like property, like real property. It's important that you own some real property, and maybe you're investing in real property. So that's an important thing. Maybe you're talking to buddies and you're investing in some small businesses, or you're doing a joint venture agreement. These are all things that can grow you and things that you should be thinking about because even if you're working a job, you need to be thinking about building more. So how do you do that? Well, maybe you take some of that money, you invest in a home for yourself so you're not paying on rent. Well, that's a real property transaction. That might require something. Maybe you start talking to friends and you pool some money together, you form a joint venture and invest in a house, a rental property, something like that. Maybe you start talking to some of your other friends that are starting their own businesses and you want to invest in them to help them grow and to get return on investment. Well, you need structures, you need contracts, you need things for that. But maybe it's time for you to start your own business. I think one of the things that we don't do well in today's day and age is own anymore. We're a subscription economy, we're a rental economy. We lease cars, we don't even own movies. We check it out on Netflix and Amazon. We lease apartments. We don't own houses. So the more that you can own, the better. And one of the things that we rent is a job. We don't own our own jobs. That's entrepreneurism. So I do think, and it's not for everyone, that's true, but I do think owning stock of a company, owning investment in a company, owning your job, owning your income is a really, really important thing. So again, the law is not a reaction, it's a design tool. It's how the vision becomes your infrastructure. That's why the growth is probably the biggest rung, but it's the most important because that is really what gets you to the next level. That is what gets you the strategic advantage. That's what gives you predictability. That's what gives you control. So we talked about really the growth phase. So how do you know if you're in the growth phase? Well, all the things I talked about. Are you stable? Are you buying a house? Are you building a family? Are you getting married? Are you growing? That's what it is are you growing the things that you own that are going to be a return on investment in the future? And that's what we want for you. And at every stage, sometimes you're going to have things outside of the law that you need help on. So maybe you need a financial advisor, maybe you need a business coach, maybe you need an accountant, um, maybe you need a career coach. So these are things, this is why we try to develop a broad network of both legal professionals and non-legal professionals because sometimes to get to the next rung on the legal ladder, you need to climb up several steps in life's ladder. And so we want to help you do that. So if you need help, if you need referrals, come to us. We develop a large network because we think that's how everything works best together. When everything's integrated, when we don't have silos, when different industries are working together to help make your life better, because that's what business is all about at the end of the day. Business started as a trade. It's you needed something that I had, or I needed something that you had. That was it. It helped me get better. It helped you get better. And it's no different today. Good business is about helping people to get better. And that is what we believe at the law firm Douglas G. Jackson. So the next step is really going into the legacy phase. Legacy isn't about wealth, it's about intent. It's the legal continuation of your growth beyond your own presence. And so this is why it's so important to plan because that is the only way you can get to the next and the highest level. You pass on more than wealth, pass on intention, structure, and stability to your friends, to your family, to your community. Legacy is not what you leave for people. It's what you leave, uh, not what you leave for people. It's what you leave in them and what you leave them with. That's so important because at the end of the day, we are a society built on relationships. Everything is relational. And it is important that we are trying to help others. That is the golden rule. I mean, we take it one step further, try to do the platinum rule as much as possible. But legacy is the highest rung on the legal ladder. It's where the law becomes not merely a tool of protection or expansion, excuse me, but of transcendence. This is where your values, your work assets, your life's visions are organized and preserved so that they can endure beyond your own presence. So, unfortunately, we're all going to die one day. Are you going to leave a mess for someone, or are you going to leave something that a ladder, a pathway that they can continue to climb that can make them better? So this phase really mirrors Maslow's pinnacle at the top of the pyramid, the self-actualization and transcendence. This is kind of fulfillment of your personal goals, your purpose, your contribution, your continuity. It's about designing the future, not reacting to the present. And that is where we all want to be. It's also the hardest rung to stay on. A lot of times you're going to fall back down. You might fall into crisis. You might get back into stabilization. And most of your time, you're probably going to spend in growth, but you want to, as much as possible, plan that legacy. So, legal legacy is about ensuring your planning uh, lifts those you love, those you serve, and the community you shape. Now, legacy planning is for everyone because the best way to do something is to plan it. And what do they say? Failure to plan is planning to fail, right? And so, legacy is not about how much you have, it's about how much you want your life to mean after you're gone. But by planning for this, it's going to make sure that you are able to obtain it because you cannot obtain it if you don't have a goal. That is just a matter of fact. I mean, some people get lucky, sure, and I do believe that success is where luck meets opportunity. I believe that. But you need uh you need to have that work ethic to be there for those opportune moments. You need to have that plan because the fact of the matter is most people don't get lucky. S- Some people even get unlucky. But if you have a plan, you will work your way up there. So legal legacy planning gives you what? Control over what happens when you pass away or become incapacitated, peace of mind that your family will be cared for, preservation, empowerment. This is more where we're talking about things like trusts. We're talking about ownership in multiple businesses. We're talking about control over assets, protection from predators, to really protect you from sliding back down the ladder. And so we want to start planning for this early, not too early because we can overcomplicate things too. We want to make sure that first you're out of crisis, then you're stabilized, then you're into growth. But once we're really stabilized is when we start kind of looking, what's the plan to climb up to that legacy, right? So we talked about estate planning, asset protection. One thing we don't talk about a lot in business is business succession planning, buy-sell agreements, operating agreements for death or incapacity, ownership transitions to family or key employees. What is your retirement plan for your business? That is the question because if you have a business, even investments in a business, sometimes people don't have any plan for what happens if something happens to them. Then you can be philanthropic, you can be purpose driven, you can be giving, you can create charitable trust or foundation, you can do legacy letters or ethical wills, end of life contribution planning. This is where it gets really fun because you get to give back. And so, and again, it's not always linear. Sometimes you're in growth and you're doing as much as you can while you're in growth. But for our model, we try to make it linear because what we want is for you to get to the next step of the ladder because we want all of our clients to succeed. We want all of our friends of the firm to succeed. So that is why it is so important. That is why viewing the law not as a detriment, not as a cost, but as a tool, as a ladder to climb up is so important. Because no matter where you fall on this ladder, you can get to a higher level. You can always climb up higher. And that's where you feel good. You feel the best at the highest levels. You really do. And so wherever you are on the ladder, just remember, we want to help you achieve more because even though you might come to us for one thing, we want to help you get to the highest rung because as you get higher, what you start to realize is that once you think you're at the top, you can see further. And once you can see further, you want to explore further. That's what it's really about. That's what life is really about. And so you can use the legal ladder as a self-assessment tool. Try to figure out where you are. Try to figure out how to get to the next level. Ask for help. That's what your community is about. We're a relationship built society. We're a relationship built business. We identify as a community law firm, and we want to help you use the law as a tool to get to the next level so that you can succeed. Because I believe that when only big businesses and only wealthy people have access to law, have access to knowledge, when they're the only ones in really investing in the law to use it as a tool, what happens is that the people at the top start moving up and they leave the rest of us behind. And that's not good for society. We want a nice integration. We want a meritocracy. We want where hard work is rewarded, but you cannot be rewarded if you don't know the rules of the game. And the rules of the game are what we call law. Remember what I said at the beginning? It's all made up, but it works because we believe in it. We write these rules of the game. They're called laws, and they are tools that can help you climb up this legal ladder to the point where you're very successful. Because in our society, law and money, no matter how much you want to get away from them, you can't. And now, I'm not saying be greedy. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is know how these things function, know how they work, and let's try to get everyone as high up on that ladder as they can. Because if we're helping people climb and people are helping us climb, that's how society is supposed to work. And that's how we really envision this law firm. So I'm going to keep probably, if you're a client of ours, you're going to start seeing more videos, more educational content. We're going to keep referencing this ladder and keep asking yourself every quarter, every 90 days, where am I on the ladder? What do I need to do to get to the next level? What do I need to do to get to the next rung? Who do I need to talk to? What do I need to learn? Because if you are trying to move up these rungs and you're challenging yourself to do it and you're rewarding yourself when you do it, trust me, you're going to be happier. You're going to be at the top of Maslow's hierarchy of self-actualization, and you're going to be near at the top of the legal ladder where you're focused on legacy. You're focused on building for the future, not worried as much about the past, and focused on what you can do for others, because that is really the goal, and that's what we want from you. And I know you might not be there. You might be on level one. You might be on crisis. A lot of our clients are. A lot of times that's when most people, unless they're very wealthy, they come to an attorney in crisis. But just know we want to get you out of crisis. We want to get you stabilized. And then we want to grow you. And we can help you do that. Now, a lot of this is going to be on you, right? We can't necessarily get you a new job. We can't make you want to talk to a financial advisor. We can't make you want to talk to a realtor to buy a house. We can't make you want to talk to a business coach or an accountant to make sure that you're investing right, right? We can't do those things. But by educating you and by giving you those connections, if you want them, we will help you climb the legal ladder. So hopefully you continue climbing these rungs. You no longer fear the law. you do view it as a tool because it can help you. It can help you become more. It can help you become better. I promise you, there are things that you don't know, laws that you don't know, and tools that you can use at almost whatever level you're on to help you get to the next rung of the ladder. Thanks for watching.